Hi, welcome to the Andrew Buckle bookshelf tour of my epic collections. Now I'm going to go through these fairly quickly because otherwise I'll be like for forever, 4 or 5 hours. I'll still be going. This one, Iron Man #1. I'm going to show you generally this format. You can see it's all in colour. That's the great thing about these epics. Always get some great bonus material at the back. Obviously not as much as I would like to see in the bonus material. And you can see the size there. Obviously they're all identical. They've all got a similar sort of look. You've got the title there. You've obviously got Iron Man, and also it says no volume 1. I've never understood why they didn't put 1, 2, 3, 4. None of them. But it just seems an odd. Missed opportunity, I would have thought, to put actually a nice, so you can look along. If it just says the title, sometimes you think, is that one 3rd or 4th or 5th? But it had some great villains, and they were really quirky ones, like Cleopatra. Also the Melter. Now, of course, they turned up later, who was in the Avengers, etc. Against the Avengers. Crimson Dynamite. I love the Crimson Dynamite, the original one. Also, the new one was okay, but the original was just always a favourite. Vanko, Professor Vanko, I think was. And you got Mandarin there, of course, who turned up quite regularly in the early days. These are great stories. Really, really love those. And they're all about 500 pages, some 400, 500. They do vary. So this one is #2, and again, like I say, no indication it is #2 other than on the back. So you've got Marvel Epic there, and you can see the stories again. This one, Tales of Suspense, 73 to 99. Now the thing is with these were into Iron Man 1, 2, 3, etc., and not Brand X. Well, this one's just got Iron Man 1. That's it. And of course, the next one had Iron Man 2 upwards. But again, lots of great little stories. Ultimo, Mandarin, of course. Actually, too many times, I think, the Mandarin. Melter, of course, turned up there. Sometimes certain characters ended up having the same ones, like Iron Man versus Mandarin, of course, Fantastic Four versus Doctor Doom, etc. I love the AIM stories as well. They're always good. Now, another thing I loved about this period, this one was definitely, yes, my Tales of Suspense 80, 81, that's, yeah, these ones. Of course, we had the Cosmic Cube story. Now, the Captain America stories, of course, are not in these. But you got the Iron Mans, and they were pretty good as well. I really loved these Iron Man stories. The artwork was very odd for this one. Look at that. I mean, let's just change that point. I don't know, it was just a weird issue. One of those issues that I've always enjoyed. Still, that's a classic set there. Another Iron Man. Now, I haven't got all of the Iron Man ones, so I've got here volumes 3, and this goes on to Titanium Man again, Crimson Dynamo, Madam Musk, and 2 to 24. So you didn't get, obviously, the whole lots and lots of stories. They were only obviously 22 stories there, issues, 22 issues included there. But again, some great ones. They've got the Red Ghost. I love those, the Night Phantom, the Controller, Mandarin, and many others. That was some good story. Gladiator, of course. I always thought it was more of a sort of obviously Daredevil character, but still. And of course, the Controller was the ones with Thanos later on. Now, I've enjoyed these. Now, I haven't got them in order, so I might have some other Iron Man somewhere else. So I'm just going to go through these. And this is the Avengers West Coast. I've always enjoyed these stories. I don't know why. They're odd. But they go all over the place. Lots of different characters. Maybe because I was always a fan of like Mockingbird. And, of course, you've got Hawkeye there. And many other characters turning up in this. And this is volume 2. Firebird as well. Some very and also they had Western stories. Rawhide Kid. It was just a nice set of stories. I don't know what it was. For me, actually, I preferred these to the Avengers. And of course, you got the standard Avengers sometimes. It was just quirky stories. Not maybe for everyone, but I did genuinely like these tales. You got this sort of thing. When they would have a sort of baseball thing. Why not? Black Knight, Captain America, Hercules, all having a game of baseball. Now, of course, being from the UK, I'm not a baseball fan, but still, it was nice to have that sort of thing, which I don't think they really did enough of. Like Fantastic Four, Avengers, but the Avengers West Coast always had that feel. You sort of like had them sort of sitting around in their ranch out in the middle of nowhere, wherever it was. And that was just great little stories. I love that when they were just sitting having a drink. That was it. They were just chatting, those sort of relationships that you got there. Again, some really good stories and some, of course, classically brilliant art, John Byrne artwork. This is #4. Weirdly, the West Coast one, they've actually been going in order. Most of them, they jump backwards and forwards, the epic, so you might get like 4 comes out and then 25. But this one, it's been 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. I don't think they've jumped anything forward. So I think it's virtually covered all the material now. I don't know. I think there may be one or two missing still. But I really enjoyed all these ones. And again, they follow exactly the same format. All in colour. Lots of classic, obviously, Wonder Man there. And also Wonder Man again. Strange enough. But also many of the great characters that I've always enjoyed. And again, another one of West Coast. Again, Mockingbird, Hawkeye, Wonder Man again. And you've got some of the characters slightly looking worse for wear. Tales to Astonish. I never know how they decide the titles for these. Sometimes I wish they didn't include them. Again, I would just prefer not the titles, Tales to Astonish, but just a number. That would have been more preferable than a name. I don't see the point, since it doesn't actually match anything other than maybe one of the titles inside. I don't even know. Of course, they've got content. Now, the epics, you can see there's a lot now. There's a lot of epics here. And, of course, every time they bring them out, as you can see, it probably just gets smaller and smaller, the writing, to the point that soon it'll be like 1 point or 2 point, or they'll have to spread over about 5 or 6 pages to include all of the titles. But there were some good, really enjoyable tales all the way through these. Obviously, Scorpio and the Zodiac, etc. in that one. So that's West Coast. Now, I haven't got many of these. These are Star Wars ones, but I got this one purposely because it's the original Marvel years, and I thoroughly enjoyed the Star Wars when they came out. I love those comics. Of course, in the UK, we had the Star Wars Weekly, and so it was just nice to get this book and just reread some of the stories, because the originals, those original Star Wars comics, I haven't got them anymore, are actually quite expensive. So I just thought, well, you know what, just get the Epic Collection and read them from there. I don't think they've been out in omnibus. They might be. I don't know. Maybe someone correct me on that and say, yes, they've been out in omnibus. But I generally enjoyed the stories. The Star Wars stories were always quite good. And also the thing about this is that some of these I've never read. So it's quite good to catch up as well as find out new stories that, this is like, say, volume 1. I haven't got volume 2 or 3 or anything. I've got 1 or 2 other ones. Certain reasons I like. How the West was won. Another one. I think this was obviously set in, oh, I don't know, was it Westerns? They had weird stories all over. Immortus quite often turned up, and very, not so much Kang. It was over like Kang, but Immortus. Immortus turns up all over the place. But they got, oh, and Graviton, again, good old character from the Avengers, of course. The original. I always thought that he was a good character that sort of they could have done a bit more with. Up Against Blank, a 2 in 4 limited series there, issues. And of course Tigra or Tigra, I don't know. I've never known how she say her name. But this one is the West Coast Avengers 1 to 4. So this is number, obviously, the 1. Quite a mix of stories, actually. This one's got Vision and Scarlet Witch 1 to 2 and Wonder Man issue 1. Very enjoyable. And again, a load of bonus material at the back, and also some nice afterwards, which is always good. Again, of course, the long list of epics there. This one's great. I love this one. Some really brilliant Immortus again, good old Immortus. You've got Loki turning up, Marvel's biggest and baddest. You've got sort of Doctor Doom, Red Skull, etc. And Magneto turns up in this one. Some really good stories. Lots of Scarlet Witch and Harkness there. Always good. That character. Never actually understood that character. Known as Captain America, enigmatic US agent. When Titans trash the Terminus Factor. That was a bit of an odd story, I have to say. But still, good. And again, got some great, and also a nice one at the back, which I think is really nice. Smacks of Vengeance. You've got this sort of like not brand Eck bit at the back by John Byrne, written and penciled by. I love that sort of section. Of course, a certain character that clearly has no reference to any character from another one. This one, Submariner. This has got the Tales to Astonish, and the thing is about this is slightly annoying, and still at the same time really good, is that they include the stories, the early stories, Fantastic Four. They've also got the annuals, Strange Tales 107, 125, Avengers 134, sorry, 3 to 4, X-Men 6, Daredevil 7, and so on. So you've got a lot of these really early tales. Flame and Battle, Flame of Battle. Also, of course, you've got the Avengers 4, where, of course, Submariner was, of course, with Captain America at the start. The whole reason that Captain America came back was Submariner. So it's quite a nice connection, the way they did that. And also you've got Submariner. I love that one. I just hadn't noticed that before. Submariner joins with the T, and then massive, obviously, capitals and then HE. How odd. Just a weird way of doing it. Why did they do it that way? Still, had this one. I wish I hadn't got rid of it because, as always, I had these comics over the years. I always love that cover. I don't know why. It's a weird cover, the way they're all looking, sort of with Submariner there. And, of course, you've got Magneto, etc. in the background. And then you've got these ones. These are the Daredevil one. And then into the Tales to Astonish. They had a quest. And unfortunately, the quest continued on. So it just doesn't end with the quest. So you've still got the character still on the quest. And they haven't brought out a volume 2 since. I think there's one out, or volume 3. I think there's another one coming soon. So that will be really good. But this is volume 1, obviously 1962 to 66. But it's a weird collection. I'm not really certain with those ones, where I prefer it if they just brought out the Submariner stories or having all the other stories as well. It's one of those things. This is Spider-Man 4. Now this one is, I think, a really good set of stories. Kazar, the Vulture, Mysterio, actually one of my favourite ones. I love the Mysterio story in this. But this is volume 4, and also you've got some Not Brand X. Quite often they add that Not Brand X story that's sort of related to this book. You've also got Marvel Superheroes number 14, a real odd story. Just suddenly, I always felt that, why wasn't that included in the actual Spider-Man comic? It seemed a bit out of place. But this one was great. Look at that, brilliant Mysterio when he's sort of at Fairground. One of my favourite Spidey stories of all time. And of course you've got that lovely black and white one there. I just absolutely superb. That's what that one is. Where is there? Oh, Spectacular Spider-Man. I mean, what a classic. Why they didn't continue on with black and white Spideys. I would have loved those. Just perfect. Even now, I don't know why they haven't gone with it. Maybe people wouldn't like black and white ones now, but I always enjoyed it because, of course, in the UK, we had lots of black and white comics, so it wasn't an issue. Kazar, I love the old Kazar story. That was a great one. Absolutely brilliant. And also, of course, Disaster Doc Ock. Of course, Spidey gets zapped in this. Great little tale. Really enjoyed that one. So, Spidey in 4. Now, this one's a bit further on. This is volume 7. I say, I've got some here, there and everywhere. Not in order. I should put them in order, but that would be too easy, wouldn't it? You've got the great Doctor Strange story there. And, of course, it's got the classic Goblin's Last Stand. Brilliant, brilliant Gil Kane story. I love this one. And this is 105 to 123. I've got, I think, another Spider-Man after that. But most of the Spidey stories after that, I wasn't particularly so interested in. So I haven't bothered buying all of the Spidey ones. You've got this character. Now, some of them, this is why, probably the reason why I didn't buy them. Because I sort of lost interest in the Spidey story at that point. But this one also, I suppose because they stopped bringing the Spidey comics over here to the UK because of the Spider-Man Weekly. So we didn't get, after this issue, I think 119 was one of the earliest Spideys I ever bought. And then I think next month after that, they didn't sort of bring it out anymore. And I thought, that's strange. What's happened to the Spidey? Because you've got the classic story there, Gwen Stacy, etc. But I enjoyed reading them, of course, in the Spider-Man Weekly. So the actual American comics, I didn't really get back into because of that. If they'd done it, just continued with them, I probably would have continued on with the Spidey stories. Now I was keeping along with the Avengers far more, but even there it was a bit of a break because we had because of Avengers Weekly as well, and it was just so annoying. I don't know why they did that. Anyway, here's the Avengers. That's why I mentioned the Avengers. This one's Avengers 41-56, annuals 1 to 2, etc. I love those annuals. They were great ones. A Mandarin story with Avengers 1, and also, of course, the classic time travel one in Volume 2. This one, Volume 3. Just some great stories. And, of course, you've got all the, of course, Masters of Evil at the back, and you've got Black Knight hurtling through the window there. And, again, it's got some extras. And, again, just really classic stories. I love these ones where they always show the building. Though, I must admit, it's not that particularly detailed. I mean, it's not a huge amount. It would be nice if I can't imagine the whole, they could have done more with the, of course, there's other rooms as well. Maybe they could have like a 5 or 6 pages of it. I would love that. Agony and the Anthill. That, of course, was Whirlwind, or originally was Human Top. Got Black Knight. Of course, this was the new Black Knight, not the old Black Knight. And you've got Swordsman, you've got loads of characters. So you've got everyone here. Swordsman and Power Man, looking slightly different from his previous Power Man appearances. And again, you've got some a good old Not Brand X. I love those ones. Really good. Now, they collected those all in a complete collection, which was just great. Another one, Not Brand X. And I've also got a number of them anyway. But this sort of thing's great. Again, some more bonus material at the back. I really love this. This was the period that I started to collect Avengers. So Avengers, and it was the Defenders and Avengers War. One of my favourite crossovers, I think, of all time. It was a very short crossover, like 4 or 5 issues, 6 issues, maybe a little bit more. Not like now, it's 6,000 issues for a crossover. These was just a bit more restrained, and I just love it. Now, this story wasn't a great one because you had like Mantis, the story. I did enjoy those Mantis stories, but this was the thing I liked. The only trouble with this crossover is that I've got the Defenders one coming in post. Hopefully it'll be here at some point, but not for this video. But it's got the same stories, I think. So it's a pity. That's the trouble. Sometimes you see there's a bit of an overlap. But still, classic, of course, Thor versus Hulk. A bit like the original ones that were in the Journey into Mystery. And, of course, the Avengers issue 3. Death Stars of the Zodiac. Great story as well. Actually, there were some really good stories in this one. Of course, you've got the Thanos story as well. The Cosmic Cube. That was a classic. So there's quite a few great fun. Well, actually saying that, when 115 is actually the issue before that, volume before that included my first one. I got Avengers 111 was my first Avengers American one. This Daredevil one, now Daredevil stories in this were okay. I wouldn't say they were all my favourites. This is volume 4, but it's got Black Widow. And I don't know why I haven't bought the Black. Recently, they've brought out a couple of these and I haven't bought them. I don't know why, but still, at some point I probably will. But it's got the Black Widow stories, which I thoroughly enjoyed. And you've got, obviously, some story. I don't know who she is, actually. No idea. Name or something. Name? Not certain about that story. And also, you've got, I say that's what I mean. It wasn't one of those issues that I really followed Daredevil at that point. It's sort of, I lost interest, and you had this guy like on the cycle there. But still, it was good. You've got the Owl, you've got Scorpion, you've got Spider-Man, Submariner, and a few other Owl. Now, I enjoyed that story. The Scorpion, not so good. But it's still part of the Daredevil collection. These ones I really loved. This is volume 1. Here Comes Daredevil. Is that one still called it? Yeah, it was still called Here Comes Daredevil. I never really think of it as called Here Comes Daredevil. I just call it Daredevil, the man without fear. Of course, Killgrave even on the front. David Tennant, that's probably the best way. I just call him David Tennant from now on. I love that series. That was just brilliant. Jessica Jones was just classic with David Tennant. I love this one. Bill Everett, of course, brilliant artwork for issue 1. Also, I love this one, the Electro story. You got the Fantastic Four turning up at his office. Just absolutely great. The Owl character, one of those characters that I was never interested in. But there's some great stories in here. Of course, you had Wally Wood's brilliant artwork, and you had the classic Submariner story. I love these ones. Still a very enjoyable one. You've got the Owl, Purple Man. Oh, that's it, of course, Purple Man, Stiltman, and the Gladiator. Lots of great ones. Daredevil 1 to 21. Dramatic front cover there. Absolutely, I don't think that features at all in the actual comic itself. Now, this one, Ant-Man, Giant Man. Slightly confusing why it didn't say Ant-Man and Giant Man and Wasp. Poor old Wasp, sort of forgotten about. But still, I thought this was great. I love these stories. Real quirky, weird stories. He never really had any great villains. He had Egghead, Human Top, some real sort of Z-listers, I guess. Ant-Man, Prisoner of the Slave World. They were really following sort of back to the monster sort of period. They didn't really have story. But then, of course, you got the Wasp kicks in there in the stories. And I always thought it was a great character. This one, I love this one. Giant Man and the Wonderful Wasp. I had to put the Wonderful Wasp battling the Human Top. Real good stories. Of course, a sort of B-lister in terms of Quicksilver, etc. I mean, what a style. Who would want to do that? You know what, whenever I do twisting around, I do lots of dance. I twist around, like, do about 2 of those and I'll be like, woo, going all over the place. So I don't know, it spins around like that. What a weird way of doing it. Still. Porcupine. Now, of course, later on, he turned up in brilliant Spider-Woman stories. Great character then. But back then, of course, he was an evil villain. And also, he had lots of real non-entity evil villains. I mean, here's one that's really El Toro. Maybe he went on to great success. I don't know. No Place to Hide, featuring a deadly tyrant of Santo Rico, I should say. Who is El Toro? I don't think anyone really cared, but it's still. You got the Magician. Actually, this was the thing I loved about this one. It also had these short stories, and they should have had more of these short. Oh, that one wasn't a short story, but they did. Did they include the short stories? They should have done. If they didn't, they should. I'm certain they're in here somewhere, because he did a couple of these like 5 or 6 page Wasp stories. I'm certain they were. Tales to Astonish, 27 to 35 to 59. Annoyingly, they didn't finish the whole entire series, in which they got. See, it was 443 pages or so. They could have added another 50 pages and probably near enough got up to the end of all of the stories for Tales to Astonish. But that's coming out, I think, fairly soon. So there's a Marvel feature one, so it includes that as well, and other stories. So that'll be a nice collection to finally get that set of Giant Man stories finished. Not everyone's favourite, I know. Like this guy on the back. The Eraser. Big Time Adventures with the smallest Avengers. Well, of course, he wasn't the smallest because you had Goliath, you had Giant Man, but anyway. And Giant Man, Goliath on the front cover here. Epic collection. I thoroughly enjoyed these ones. Volume 2, these were the ones with Quicksilver, Scarlet Witch, Hawkeye and Captain America. And of course, some of the other characters like Goliath and Wasp turned up. I love that one. Kang, that was a great story. You had Kang. Sort of built up all sort of what happened later on. I think they probably changed it, messed around with it so much now. There's like 5 million Kangs now. I've lost track of the Kang stories. But still, of course, you've got Doc Doom story. A very unusual Doc Doom. Doc Doom has never really fitted in, I don't think, as Avengers villain. But still. And the Collector. Good old Collector. Great little ones there. And of course, the Sons of the Serpents as well. Loads of just classics. Now, there were some awful stories as well. This one comes to mind. That one was just not very good. So there were a few duffers, I think, in these stories. But of course, you even had a Cosmic Cube story there. Suddenly, the Submariner was actually should have been suddenly the Cosmic Cube. But that was good. On to the next one, Avengers. Now, which one is this one? Oh, The Final Threat. Now, why did I get this one? Oh, this is 150 to 166 because it's got some great little stories. Again, got some brilliant artwork. Perez, love those ones. And what's that? It's weird. I hadn't noticed that before. And there, it's got. Oh, they did an unusual. Quite often they had these sort of stories where they would have, because they probably couldn't get the book out on time or something, they would have a sort of flashback story, and I just noticed that where they got the original one from Avengers number 16, which is very odd. Probably at the time I might pick that comic up and thought, what? Hang on, that story's been done before. Of course, got Wonder Man coming back. Now at that time, of course, he was long dead, back from whatever it was, Avengers issue 6, I think, Wonder Man, with, of course, Zemo created him, along with the Executioner and Enchantress. And of course, you got the Whirlwind lives again. The Whirlwind never gave up, but I mean, what a... And Ultron, of course. So you had some great little tales. I think there was also some ones, again, Vision, obviously, and Wonder Man there as well. I love these ones, and of course, you've got Thanos, a classic story. That one's got the Marvel 2-in-1 annual, number 2 there. Oh, is that the Marvel? Yes, that is that one. Thanos, of course, against Spider-Man and the Thing there. This one was an old one. Heavy Metal. Now, I haven't got many later ones. So this one is number 18. So I really jump ahead because this is like number 9 by this point. But this one is number 18. And you, of course, got female Kang. That's what I mean about time with Kang. It just got silly. Just got plain silly. Lots of different Kangs. I mean, there's probably Kang Dog, Kang the Cat, Kang Ant Cat, Kang or whatever. Whole load of different. It just got ridiculous. But I guess that's the way Marvel works with these sort of spin off the Kang family. Adaptoid. Changed a bit from how I remember the Adaptoid, but still. You, of course, got the Adaptoid there. Wasn't he part of the Cosmic Cube or something? Or I think he contained something about the Cosmic Cube so he can see all his adaptions. And there you've got the thing there, the Kang, and you've got this Kang here and a couple of other Kangs and the Kang Council. I'm certain it was great. They were good. They did get a bit out of hand. Got very confusing. Must have been confusing for Kang as well. Am I the right Kang? Well, I'm the first Kang. Or he probably never remembered which Kang. High Evolutionary as well, of course. And the Hulk looking very odd there. There's the Hulk and Hercules. And I'm not even certain which character. Is that? Probably, I don't know. Suddenly I thought myself it was Titanium Man, but I don't think it is. And Quasar and Nova and many others. So this one has got some unusual stories. Again, not a period of comics that I was particularly reading at the time, the Avengers 286, 303, but still, I like picking up the occasional epic collection of other periods that maybe I don't know much about. I have no idea who that guy is. Who is that guy? No, I'm just going to have a look. No, of course, you've got Marina, Namor's wife. Of course, she was Alpha Flight one time, but I have no idea who that character is. They put a character there. Someone will probably put in the comments, yes, it's XYZ. Iron Man, some more Iron Man. This is 1970 to 72. This was volume 4. And this had quite some unusual ones. Spy Master, had Firebrand. Now, I enjoyed the Firebrand story. You also had Nick Fury and many others. The artwork was a bit odd in this one, the series of books. This character here, I don't know, this one here. Which one is it? Is that the Red Ghost again? I have no idea. I know it's someone else. Doom Prayer. Now, I've read these ages ago, so I'm not familiar with every single story here. I have read all of them, but sometimes you just look and think, just try and remind yourself about the story particularly. And other stories there. Black Panther, this was really good. I really loved it. I got this because of the Kirby period. And there were some good little yarns. Not all, but there were some decent, unusual stories. As always with Kirby, very odd. Race Against Time, Chaos and the King Solomon's Tomb. Very inventive, very odd all the way through. And I assume this was all of the Kirby stories. So you can see there, volume 2. Now, I never got volume 1. Though I did get volume 1 via the Penguin series, because Penguin brought out one, so I got all the stories that way. This one, another Daredevil one. This one's 22 to 41. It's got, of course, Thor, Spider-Man, Kazar. And again, this one is probably one of the thickest of Daredevil ones or any epic collection I've got. I don't know how many pages. So occasionally, even saying that, it's only up to page 500 again. Just feels a lot thicker. You can see the same format. Again, no number. Why? Oh, why? They will be nice. Even on the front cover. No information what number it is. You have to look at the back to make it. And of course, you've got the classic Kazar one. I've got that in the original. And I just Leapfrog. Good old Leapfrog. Of course, he turned up in the TV series. He was great. The She-Hulk one. Stiltman as well. I love those characters. Great characters. Poor old Stiltman. I struggle with Stiltman. I always think, how could that work? But again, if you start analysing any sort of characters, you'd stop and. But this one was classic. Hyde and Cobra, when he sort of goes on, he's sort of has to battle them and he hasn't got his sort of abilities. He can't see or anything. I'm not certain that you would have much chance against the Cobra and Hyde, but of course they are pretty useless villains most of the time. And of course, they're the Matador as well. So that's a great set. Actually, I love that annual. That was the annual one. Annual 1. One of those ones that, I don't know, it's some special annual. It's weird. I don't know why I like that annual, but it's one of my favourites. There's another Daredevil one. And you've got here Hyde and Cobra again. Now, of course, I might be completely wrong with the Cobra stories. They overlap. So there's another one there. And again, some brilliant artwork. And, of course, got Peter Parker there. Got Captain America there battling away. You can't beat a good old battling. And, of course, it's always over misunderstandings. Always is. And you've got this character with the good old... I was thinking it was a Puppet Master for a second. I was thinking, I don't... But it had some weird villains. I have no idea who this guy is. That is lost on me completely. Again, you've got Karen Page, you've got Cry Coward. Coward, 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 coward. Obviously, you've got a lot of cowards there. Coward, coward, all the way through. Whistling Wind. And again, you've got some just odd tales. When I look through these, sometimes you think, And also, of course, Hyde again. At least you've got a few sort of consistent characters that I actually do know. Oh, look at that lovely pencil sketch one at the back. But yes, this volume has got some... Oh, it's got the origin one as well. So it's quite nice. Of course, the original there. Nowadays, of course, you probably have this character, like this style, in other comics as well. But at the time, I think it was the first time I'd really seen that sort of costume again. That was a nice one. Amazing Spider-Man. This one's got the Avengers one. Spidey decides he wants to join the Avengers. And of course, well, of course, later on he did join the Avengers in the end. But I love that bit on the back. That old, you'd think that old Jameson would have forgiven Spidey would, but no, he can never do that. And times he saved him, and of course that's never, ever possible. Lizard, Craven, great. The first appearance of Kingpin, of course, in this one. This is volume 3. And of course, got some, oh, and it's also, of course, got the classic, let's not turn that one, Green Lantern. Oh, I'll turn that page. Don't want to show that page. But you got Green Lantern when you finally finds out about Peter Parker. And that storyline continued for ages and ages. And the Rhino, good old Rhino there. I always liked the Rhino. I don't know, I always, and Lizard. Of course, the Lizard, that was a good story as well. Dr. Connor. And the Vulture. And 2 Vultures. Not in just 1 Vulture, you got 2 Vultures in that story. Craven, of course, turns up again. And of course, you've got, at this point, you've got there MJ really coming into the storyline. And of course, Gwen as well. So it creates some interest there. And you've got classic Human Torch story as well. This is Fantastic Four Epic Volume number 2. This has got some great stories. 2 annuals. You've got Annual 1 and Annual 2. The first one, of course, Submariner. The invasion from Atlantis, really amazing story. And of course, you've got the origin of Doctor Doom in the second. And again, standard format, all in colour, all the way through, following all the stories. And there's some good ones. Molecule Man, really good. Of course, you've got the covers as well. It's one thing I didn't point out. The covers are always included. And you've got the classic Ramatut. So you've got sort of the origins of Kang, which is always, and also these posters. I love these Marvel Masterwork posters. They always included. I wish they would include them now. Sadly, they don't. And of course, you've got a classic Hulk story. Hulk and the Avengers, everyone turns up. Just brilliant. I love that one. There was actually quite a lot of stories with sort of Doctor Strange. You had the Avengers. Also, the X-Men turn up. And just great. And also, you had this one, Diablo. So there were a few Duff stories. I was not a keen fan of Diablo. But you, of course, had Doctor Doom there and Ramatut, where they actually meet. So it's a nice sort of split story off. Now, I assume that the story for Kang was a little bit later. I don't know about the timing. But they were good. And then you had Mole Man. The next one was Mole Man. But you had the Invincible Man as well. Again, some extras, but not a huge amount. But you've got some of these sort of ones where lovely pencil sketch there. And, of course, an unused one for Fantastic Four Annual number 1. Not so keen on this one. Captain America. At this point, they had 120 to 138. This was volume 3. You had stories here. Vietnam, teams with Falcon to oppose the radical Diamond Heads, sets out to coast road trip full of motorcycle gangs, rock festivals, and the Red Skull and MODOK, etc. They're okay, but I wouldn't say that I would rush and reread them again. So, I mean, I did buy a few of them at the time. Just not particularly my favourite stories. There's MODOK there, just to show a few examples. The artwork is great, but just not really sort of catching my attention. Now, this one did have some really interesting ones. This one had Captain America 100 to 119, so you had a great Steranko run. Also, you had the 97 to 97, finishing off the Tales of Suspense. And some very unusual artwork. The artwork went really, really weird. Very strange, but I actually didn't like it at the time, but quite like it now. I appreciate it a bit more now than I used to. So it's got real decent tale, like that one there. Here lies Bucky Barnes. And of course you've got the Steranko one afterwards. It's the Hulk, and you've got Captain America surging through strength. I love these ones. I still love the Steranko stories, even though I might look at it and go, the artwork. Steranko had some very strange poses, but look at lots of great. I mean, he was unique, certainly. Obviously, everyone could say, well, it's like Eisner sort of created millions of amazing artworks. But I think Steranko sort of was again one of those, but not, I don't think, one of the greatest in terms of his human figure. It's just so sort of odd, and the layout, it just seems to be strange. But I still think, wow, very, very Hail Hydra they got there. And also you got the Red Skull, a cube, good old cube story. That was a classic. I love that one. Can't beat a good old cosmic cube story. And MODOK and many others, and the Falcon, of course, turns up the first time. Now falls the scroll. That's all gives it away, doesn't it? But of course, inevitable. But like I said, the first stories are very odd. They are so strange. And of course, you've got the sort of origin or the early retelling of the Avengers #4, but in a slightly different way, slightly odd way. Another Captain America. So I've got quite a few of Captain America. Now again, I've got gaps, and I haven't got the recent ones. I don't know if they've actually continued with Volume 5. I assume there's a Volume 5. Sometimes I lose track of runs of these epics. You know, they go along and you see, oh, I didn't even realise that was out. And so there's probably a few that Grey Gargoyle. Again, I have certain characters that I'm not really fan. You probably, my videos, Mole Man comes to mind, Grey Gargoyle is another one. I just think, no, what a dreadful character. He was dreadful in the Thors. Not very impressed. There's some not so great ones there. But you've got the Kingpin. Also, of course, you've got Hydra again. Hydra always turning up there. And, of course, Panic on Park Avenue. There was some odd issues by this time. I think I sort of fell out with the Captain America at this point. I got back into it again. I started to buy it again with, I think it was issue 159 or something. But you had, like, here, the Scorpion. And you had, oh, yes, you had that weird story where you had Captain America. And not the original one, but the second Captain America. The one that was in that middle Atlas period. We find out a bit. I don't know why they made such a contrived story. That was always a trouble. But then again, with the origin again of Captain America, Avengers 4 is obviously not his origin, but origin back in the timely period. But it just always slightly way they sort of created that secondary character. Still, because in the original comics, of course, you had the original Captain America, and when it ended, was it around about 1949? Then, of course, that was it. He just disappeared, and that was the last issue. It was Captain America's Weird Tales or something, and then they sort of then brought him back again. But those stories, they weren't considered the same, which was odd because he called Steve Rogers. You had Bucky, but why did they? But then they had a bit where Zemo had killed Bucky, but it was, of course, great for the storyline. But sort of bit of retrofitting. I never felt totally easy with that. Of course, you got the Viper, and you got all the other characters like Eel and other ones as well. And I think Cobra as well was in it, Scarecrow, a little bunch of characters. I think Cap at this point suddenly had superpowers. He suddenly became all the Porcupine. So it was a little good sort of Plant Man. So he introduced lots of little characters that were all in original other comics, like Eel, of course, being from the Human Torch. You got, now I don't know where the Viper was from, unless he was a new character, I can't remember. But you got Plant Man there. Now Plant Man, Giant Man? I can't remember. And Porcupine obviously was Giant Man as well. So a lot of these characters suddenly became into Captain America's world. Doctor Strange, I love this one. The Vampire Versus. This is volume 9. Now I jumped forward quite a few issues with Doctor Strange. I've got sort of gap where I love these ones. I love picking them up when they came out. They were just great issues. And I've got a superb cover there. And you had Morbius, etc. Very, very odd issues. The Dormammu, of course, Clear. Actually, I loved all of them in this one. So it was really nice picking up this epic. And that's the thing sometimes with these epic collections. It's great just to get them finally. Because quite often I would have gaps. I would buy 10 issues or something. And then I would like miss 2 or 3. And of course, without going back and picking them up again in the future, so it's nice to actually get these and read them all as a complete run. And this is Doctor Strange, Sorcerer Supreme, 14 to 33. And Ghost Rider 12. And you had here all about the possessed Topaz, Werewolf by Night, Flames of the Ghost Rider. Even Thanos turns up in this one. So it's an interesting book, unusual one. Now this one's Doctor Strange, 6 to 28, and I love these stories as well. This one's volume 4. I think my gap, there was a gap after that point for me. But again, some great stories was good old Dormammu. Just brilliant artwork as well. And again, Doctor Strange and Mordo, of course. Mordo's always turning up. Good old Mordo. Oh, I love those ones. When they went back in time, because this was around about, obviously, 1976. And the Bicentennial. That's just great. Clear's gone mad, and I can't stop her without destroying her. Though I don't know why they put that in the Eye of Agamotto. But they were good stories all the same. And this one, of course, The In-Betweener. I think they did a TV series and eventually, I don't think it was the same, The In-Betweeners. But it's still some great bonus material at the back. And also my favourite, P. Craig Russell. That was the beautifully illustrated annual, as I said. I don't know where that was, probably in this. Oh, there it is. There it is. Absolutely great, that one. P. Craig Russell. I've always liked everything by P. Craig Russell, so that's a nice one to add into that collection. Here's another one, Volume 3. This one's got 180 to 183, Submariner 22. Now, weird mix. And again, whenever they bring out any new volumes of these, quite often they get repeated all the time. So you've got sometimes 2 or 3 copies of these sort of runs. I think even Submariner, you probably end up with the same run. So it's always a pity. But I love the stories in this one. That was just great. If a world should die before I wake. Really classic. Real classic stories. And of course, you've got Eternity, you've got Clear Again. And also, you had these ones, Nightcrawler storyline. That was just great. And also, you had H.P. Lovecraft, R.E. Howard. They always said R.E. Howard. To my mind, it was more H.P. Lovecraft. But I guess it just had that H.P. Lovecraft feel. Where you sort of go there to, I don't know where it was Arkham or something similar to that. And he faced various characters, obviously, that were, sort of, to me, H.P. Lovecraft related, though it does say R.E. Howard. And of course, you've got Cloak and Dagger as well. They gained some brilliant artwork. That was, I think it was Frank Brunner. Frank Brunner, brilliant bit of artwork in that period. Loved it. And of course, you've got some extras here again as well. Does it say that? Oh, yes. Got the Cisneg Genesis as well, Silver Dagger. And you've got other ones there as well. The Undying ones as well. The dark side of the universe. This one's great. Sergeant Fury, Volume 1. That's it. Why they haven't released any more? I love these ones. It's got great Kirby artwork all the way through. Some really great stories, as well as other characters. It has in the content. I think there's other artists, of course. So let's just go to the front. I don't want to turn around and say something that's not true. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Inca's Dick. Oh, yeah, Dick Ayers. I knew it was. Just quickly checking. Sometimes I think, oh, what character? But they were great. They were really good stories. I think it's a pity that they've never continued on with Volume 2, Volume 3, Volume 4. Hopefully at some point they will. But these were good, really good. And I've picked up quite a few of the annuals as well as other issues of Sergeant Fury, 40s and 50s, those sort of period. But they were good. With another one, Captain Savage. Why haven't they done... And just recently I saw something about Ghost Rider, not the new Ghost Rider. The original Ghost Rider was the Western one. And I thought, why hasn't that been in an Epic collection with maybe the Rawhide Kid and all those sort of ones? Of course, they did Rawhide Kid with the Essentials as well as Marvel Masterworks, but I don't think they've done an Epic collection of those yet, which is a pity, because there's all these sort of war ones, loads of stories that just haven't been reprinted yet. Star Wars. This is the only other Star Wars. This one I got it because the Tales of the Jedi. It's quite interesting because it's sort of like the very early, it says here, more than 25,000 years before the saga of Skywalkers. So it's a real sort of early origin story. Though, to be honest, it didn't really explain, particularly to me, the origin of the Force and the Jedi particularly. I mean, you do obviously learn a little bit about the origins, and it's great to see all the characters slightly different from, obviously, what came later with the various Obi-Wan Kenobi, etc. But I thought it would have been nice to have actually had a little even further back to actually find out a little bit more about the Force and various other things about that sort of side of things. Would have been good. But still, I did enjoy this book. Actually, it was a good read. Thoroughly enjoyed Tales of the Jedi Legends. This is Volume 1 as well. Don't know when it came out. These stories take place 36 to 25 millennia before Episode 1. It includes the Dawn of the Jedi, Force Storm, etc., etc. Marvel 2-in-1. Now, unfortunately, they haven't done Volume 2 of this yet. And I love these collections, these ones with the Thing and the Hulk. Though I must admit, I always wish they had done other combinations of characters, not just the Thing. But these ones were good. Thing and Iron Man. You also had Thing and the Hulk, Hitler. No, it's not. But Hitler turns up in this. You've got Daredevil, Captain America. Also got the Badoon, the good old Badoon. I think that's probably a Defender story, I think. Yes, that's Guardians of the Galaxy. That was Doctor Strange. And also you got the Enchantress again. All the various characters. Loads of characters turned up here. The Puppet Master. And many, many others. Oh, I love that one. The Gollum. Good old Gollum. The Thing and the Gollum. Poor old Gollum. I think that was probably his last book, the Gollum. I think they rounded the story off. And that sometimes was the thing with these ones. They would sort of storylines that were not continued in other sort of magazines. They would finish them off in here. Or in Marvel Team Up, they're like, that's how it finishes, because that's it. you just had those issues just cancelled and you would never know what happened to the characters. So it's got Luke Cage, Daredevil and many others. That's again Volume 1 and 1973 to 76 and 1 to 19. Also Marvel Feature 11 and 12 and also a Marvel Team Up. And that's another series, Marvel Team Up. Why? Why is there no omnibus collection, or sorry, even omnibus, epic collections of those? It just makes no sense. It just seems that weird oversight that the team-ups and 2-in-1s haven't been done. And there's other ones, of course, other series. You think, why have they been completely forgotten about? Avengers. I love these stories. Again, this is 129 to 149. You had the Wild West story, Scarlet Witch, Hellcat, Moondragon, and many others. Squadron Sinister. Some really good yarns in this one. I loved the Kang stories. They were good. There's the Kang story. I think that was the one where they had the Legion of the Unliving. I think they changed a bit, the Legion of... Of course, other characters will be introduced into the story, probably like swordsman, etc. When, they, of course, character died, they were becoming part of the Legion of the Unliving. I think they should have had their own comic. Don't know why they didn't. I don't know who this guy's. I think he was against Kung Fu, Masters of Kung Fu, if I remember rightly. And, of course, you've got Kang again. Kang turned up quite a lot all over the place. And Dormammu, of course, can't beat good old Ultron. There's a lot of great stories. Here, Journey to the Centre of the Ant. That's another one there. Yellow Jacket at that point. And Kang again, good old Kang. But it was nice because they had a story set in the Wild West. It was a nice little twist with Kang in the storyline. I like that one. And of course, Hellcat. Well, Patsy Walker, of course. That was a nice thing. I always felt Million Model should have, they could have introduced her as a character as well. Why not? Just put her in. But these were good. They had a weird twist in the story. There was a couple of sort of comics that suddenly the story completely changed. You had this sort of weird character here. Obviously, had an issue there. Squadron Sinister. I love those stories. Brilliant. I've got the Squadron Sinisters, one of the books of those. They've always been an unusual group of characters. Obviously, they're very similar to certain characters that I will not mention, but they're good. And of course, you've got some extra bonus material about 2 summer specials, the Mighty Marvel. These are the Treasury editions. I love the Treasury edition. The Savage Fists of Kung Fu. Was it called that? Marvel Treasury? It might have been. I'm certain it was the case. And on to something that is Kung Fu. Now, unfortunately, they haven't continued with this series. I think I've got 2 volumes. I love these stories. Now, I'm not particularly into Kung Fu or anything that sort of thing, martial arts, but at the same time, the artwork was just brilliant. Paul Galucci, etc. I just thought it's amazing. Really brilliant stories. I enjoyed reading them when they were in the Avengers Weekly. And so you've got loads of great ones here. And the thing is, of course, they're in colour. And it was just great fun just to reread these stories that were just, for me, were great. Reading them weekly. Sometimes you don't get the same sort of thing because you follow it all the way through, week after week after week. But when you read it in a collection like this, you can appreciate the stories maybe in a slightly different way. This is good. But Volume 3 was announced, was going to come out at some point of an epic. And I assumed they were going to continue, and then it was cancelled. And that's it. Of course, you've got Fu Manchu there. Maybe there's a licensing reason. Quite often that's the reason, I guess. It just suddenly there was a license issue. Obviously because of Fu Manchu, etc. Maybe. I don't know. Weapon of the Soul. Engelhart, Stalin. These were great. Really, really great stories. Midnight Brings Dark Death. Special Marvel Edition. Always love those ones. Special Marvel Edition. Great issues. Good stories all the way through. Brilliant artwork. Absolutely classic stories. Giant size. And I love that giant size period. At that period, giant sizes were just great. Not so mega fan of them nowadays. Oh, look at that one. I mean, wow. I mean, that's what you call a page. Nice maze-like pattern design there. And of course, got some other characters there all the way through. So that's the Marvel Master of Kung Fu. The Incredible Hulk, Volume 3. The Leader Lives. Now, Leader turned up quite a lot in some of these books. Not all the time, but he was quite a... Also, of course, had the Sandman and many others. This is Volume 3, 1967, 1969. And it's got the last of the Tales to Astonish. Then it went into The Incredible Hulk, 102 to 117, as well as an annual, number 1. And also another Not Brand Ek. I genuinely enjoyed some of these stories. They've got this great battle between Submariner and the Hulk. Love that one. Also, you got the Asgard stories. They were great. Love that one. And not all of them were particularly that great. That one I wasn't particularly enamoured by. But still, I guess you've got to have occasional stories that are just not favourite ones. The artwork was very varied, I think. It just sort of, you got here, of course, Black Bolt turns up. But sometimes it's this one. Now, I think I appreciate this a little bit more now. At the time, I was not so Herbie Trimp. Good old Herbie. Now, at the time, I thought, oh, I don't really like Herbie Trimp's artwork. One of those artists that, but now I actually appreciate him a lot more. I quite enjoy it. But he did have some really unusual stories. This one was quite an unusual one. Out in space. That was a very strange tale. And of course, you got Sandman, the Glass Man, as he was probably at that point. I always thought that was a bit of a silly story because, anyway. And also, you've got the leader again. You've got the leader turns up quite a few times. And Inhumans. You've got some nice extras as well in this as well. And the Mandarin. Good old Mandarin. And you've got the Inhumans in this one as well. Now, this one is Volume 4. Incredible Hulk, 118 to 137. I loved the Incredible Hulk one, 118. Again, Submariner. But also, you've got Maximus. And, of course, you've got the Glob. I was going to say the Blob. Doesn't look a bit like the... But he was the Glob. That was an unusual set of stories. Absorbing Man. Also the Wrath. Now, that one was a classic. No More Monster with the Incredible Hulk. Great little tale. Fantastic Four turn up. I think it was 122. Really good issue. And many other classics. Again, the Glob turns up again. Glob turned up quite a few times in that. The Kang, of course, turns up. You can't beat a Kang story. And also, I don't know... Oh, my favourite, good old Phantom Eagle. I'm really quite certain he should have a film. Phantom Eagle is one of those characters. I think he turns up a few times. Phantom Eagle, I keep thinking, maybe, because he had like the Guardian of the Galaxies, Marvel Superheroes. This one, I think, is Marvel Superheroes number 16. Phantom Eagle. He should have his moment in the sun. He definitely needs, obviously, a Marvel Universe story. Suddenly that comic will go from about 10 pence to about £5 million because no one's probably bought it. Saying that, I don't think I've got a copy of it either now. But at one time I used to have that copy as well. This is a great one as well. This one's got Incredible Hulk 138 to 156 and Avengers 88. Epic Volume 5. Lots of, you can see all the characters. Who will judge the Hulk? Don't ask me. And of course got the leader, good old leader there. I don't know why he just didn't use his brain, the great thing. Now of course he's had the classic Harlan Nelson one. I loved that story. And you got here, Harlan Nelson Stories, it says there. What a classic. Doctor Doom story. And also you've also got the Valkyrie. Classic one. I love that one. Don't know why. That was just, I don't know, there was something about, yeah, they shoot Hulks, don't they? The Incredible Hulk, 142. Really great story. And also another one that I really, really liked. I'm just going to find it. Of course, there's always the way when I flick through these. This one. One of my favourite Marvel stories they've ever done. This one. He goes into a town that doesn't exist. Also, just what a classic tale. It's obviously a Mirage. The Heaven is a very small place. Very short story. I think one of the best stories that they've done with the Hulk. I love that one. So it's just a classic. And then you got just a real duff story afterwards. But that's always the way. It's not obviously always great all the way through. I don't know who that character is there. Oh, the Chameleon. To spoil it. Sorry, anyone expecting, not knowing that the Chameleon turns up in this. Obviously, Spider-Man's one of, well, the earliest character, I think, probably, unless he was terrible Tinker. I can't. Again, one trouble with these epics, like I say, I think it's going to get smaller and smaller. At some point, they're just going to be like, you will have to have a magnifying glass to actually see that. And then maybe an electron microscope. Probably electron microscope is next, so you really have to look, be at like quantum level or something. This one, Incredible Hulk. Very unusual one. I don't know why I bought this one, but it still had some great stories. Oh, Peter David. That's the reason I got it. This is volume 14. It got a bit of a gap. So I think I probably stopped at about volume 6 or so. And then got this gap of stories. And it's nice just to dip into some of these stories. Because, you know, I don't know anything about it. I haven't bought them in the original. And I just thought, wow, why not? And then I think this is probably, that looks like a West Coast Avengers story. I'm certain that is a West Coast Avengers. No, it's not. Incredible Hulk, but obviously includes some of the characters that seems to be in that storyline. And of course, you've got another Hulk battling away there. And the Hulk just keeps coming at you. Yeah. This one includes Hulk 314 to 330, annuals 14 to 15, and material from Marvel Fanfare, no less. Also got an interview at the back with John Byrne, which is always good. Kill Raven. I love these stories. Amazing Adventures. They replaced the Beast story with Kill Raven. At the time I thought, you know what, this is one of the great series. And I did buy quite a few issues at the time. But the thing about this epic collection is that I can read all the stories now that I didn't buy. But these were great. Neil Adams, of course. First story, just really brilliant. And then the stories slightly changed, but I still thoroughly enjoyed them. They were just great, amazing adventures. It was sort of a weird fantasy tale, which in the UK, we had the Ape Slayer story as well. They did sort of a weird sort of adaptation of the stories into the Planet of the Apes stories. I don't know if they've ever been reprinted, those ones. But it had some of the really quirkiest stories. This one, case in point, War of the Worlds one there, starring Killraven. And you got this woman there, and it got Killraven, the Olympia volcano. Oh, this one as well, Death's Dark Dreamer. Another classic. There were some just really, really good stories. Free Earth, very strange. And of course, P. Craig Russell's brilliant artwork. Oh, this one includes, now I don't know if it includes everything, because there's some Killraven stories that, but it's still a decent selection of stories. Thor. Now I haven't got all the Thors because I've got the omnibus edition, so quite a few, if I've got gaps. So you've seen all the ones I've got near enough, I've nearly finished. But I've got some gaps because I've got the omnibuses, so I didn't bother keeping both. Sometimes, unfortunately, the overlap is just slightly wrong. Like there's 2 issues or something. You think, I've got to keep the epic if I want it to be complete. In some cases, I haven't. I've just thought, oh, I know the stories anyway, so I'm not going to worry the fact there's a couple of stories missing. But these were good. This is Thor Volume 6, and this stories were 195 to 216. And this is a period when I actually started collecting the Thor ones. When it first, about 1973, I first started. And they had some great Pluto there, of course, classic tales. And with a lot of ones in the UK, you got the issues, and then I would find other back issues in the shops. It was very strange. You sort of, I get 1 month, and then suddenly I find issues from like a year ago. And it was good. It was an unusual time. Of course, you got Loki there, of course, there. God of Mischief. At this point, of course, I didn't know who these characters were particularly, so it was just fascinating to see this one. And Ulrich, Ulrich, I'm certain it's Ulrich. I always called him Ulrich. Don't know why, but Ulrich. Now, these characters all looked a bit like the Badoon, but they weren't, but it was still sort of Badoon-like. Also had Mephisto, yes, good old Mephisto on the back there. Thor 195 to 216, and that was 1973. That was like I say, that's when I started collecting them. That was a nice little volume. And Mangog, of course. Good old Mangog on the front. Though I don't know, he was like, one time he was like a trillion people. Was it a billion people? I think by the end of this, he was like about 150 people, sort of strength. It's always weird. I never could understand the strength, why they put that thing in, of billion people. Because a billion would be an amazingly powerful person. Anybody that strength would literally be able to just, any act would destroy the planet, I would have thought. You know, I mean, that's just too strong. This one isn't an epic collection, but I always put it in the collection of epics because, as far as I'm concerned, it should have been an epic. I don't know why it's a Strange Tales one, the complete collection. And I don't know why I just put it, but I love the artwork. I love the stories. You got the wizard there, good old wizard. And you had, I think it was a missed opportunity for having some really interesting stories. They should have alternated. I think they could have done The Thing, Sue Storm, Reed Richards, each month have a different story. I don't know what, of course you've got Submariner there against the Human Torch, but they just concentrated solely on it. But it came with loads of quirky characters, some truly awful characters. One character's real, not unfortunately a good character, Asbestos Man. Nope, that is not a character you want to be. Spidey, of course, turns up. I love that Spidey story. But this one, I think this one's actually slightly, again, I always say it's thick. No, it's not. It's about 500 pages again. Sometimes you get one of these epics that really feels quite thick. And then you get another 500 pager, feels quite thin. I know it's paper quality, but it's just odd when you pick it up, you think, oh, that's slightly thicker. You've got the eel, of course, in the story. It did have some really quirky characters like Plant Man and some other characters of really, truly awful. The Rabble Rouser, though I think there was always talk about he was actually the hate monger. Wasn't that Adolf Hitler or whatever? Sorry, spoiler, if you've never read that story. But you've got Plant Man, you've got other ones, you've got the Puppet Master, and the artwork went a bit weird by the end. They had some really, they had the weirdest stories by the end with Kang. There's a Kang story, and also some other character. I don't know which. What's that one? Let's just go this. Oh, the Mad Thinker. The Bouncing Ball of Doom. You really know you're on a winner with stories like that. But also, you like I say, oh yes, the Kang one. I mean, that was truly odd. Kang set in medieval age. But that's what I liked about it. Also, they even had the Beatles in it. Well, even though they weren't called the Beatles, of course. John, Paul, George and Ringo. You can get away with that, I guess. Still. But it's a great little set of stories, 101 to 134. And at least they included everything. Because it was slightly with the Ant-Man one, where they didn't include everything. It always sort of slightly bugs me on that one. My favourite epic of all. Along with this Human Torch one, which I think... I love the way it's called Human Torch and Thing. I never really associated it. I always called it Human Torch. It was, for me, Strange Tales was the Human Torch. But again, I wish they'd done like the Invisible Girl, Invisible Woman. Would have been great if they'd done those, but they didn't. Now, X-Men. This is classic because it's got the original X-Men and you've got the new X-Men. A little bit like Wolverine, etc. But you've just got some great stories. Of course, you've got Havoc and other... Oh, you've got the Beast from Amazing Avengers. Now, I wasn't too keen on the artwork in the Amazing Avengers ones. I'm not certain who did it, actually. Tom Sutton. I mean, very good artist, but I just never liked him. I don't know why. Maybe it's so strange. And, of course, you had, like, there, you got Juggernaut as well. But the thing about this one I loved was the fact it included the covers. These were all reprint ones. So they're obviously reprinting the ones that have been back in the 60s. And they included... Now, I bought quite a lot of these. I should have perhaps bought the actual originals. They were going about... The weird thing was, of course, back then, back in about 73, 74, probably a lot, if you go to a comic mart, you probably could near enough buy the originals for much the same price as the reprints. They weren't very expensive. When you look back at a lot of these sort of price lists of things, they were like 6-10 pence. The reprint ones were about 10 pence as well. So a bit nutty doing that, but still. Moonstone. Good old Moonstone. That was in Captain America. And also you've got other stories. Moonstone again. And you've also got some classic, wonderful Iceman and Gil Kane artwork. I love anything with Gil Kane in. And also you've got Wolverine as well, which is sort of unusual one to include in this. But still, great little tale. This one's Incredible Hulk. Some good stories and some not particularly favourite ones. It's got the Mimic story, which is probably in this one as well. I didn't look. I'm certain it is in there. But they did repeat it. You've got Rhino and lots of other characters. Juggernaut, Cobalt Man. You've also got Rhino, Abomination, and also the Inhumans, of course. But I think it's really good. Really, really good artwork. I think it's got the harp. Yes, it's got the Harpy story. That's an unusual one. Where, yeah, that's... Oh, and of course, now that's a pretty... What's his name? Destroy, cries the monster. MODOK, you're just about to be crushed. An ant to be crushed or something. And you've got Cobalt Man, and then, of course, from the X-Men. And I've got one X-Men. This one, probably just to cover the period of I've got other ones. So I just got this one, the X-Men Epic Collection. And it's got the original, of course, the new X-Men. I love those stories. They were good. Unfortunately, I didn't buy them when they came out. After a while, I bought some of them. They sort of, I don't think they were, I didn't find them in my local town. Or if they were there, I didn't buy them. I don't know why, but I just didn't get them. So you've got the Sentinels there, got a lovely Christmas story there. And they were just great. And you got here Magneto, as well as I think the Multiple Man and others. Lots and lots of good. I actually started to buy them at X-Men 109. That's when I think that's when I first saw it in the shops. Again, it might have already been in the shops. Just, of course, this one brilliant. John Byrne one. There you've got that number 14, White Snow, White Doom. And I don't know what... Oh, you've got Marvel Team Up. Again, I'm not certain why they haven't brought out an omnibus edition. And you've got some Foom in here as well, which is always nice. Though it doesn't weirdly mention Foom in this. Also, Comic Reader. I always love that one. That was always an unusual magazine. Again, some more Foom there as well. You've got, obviously, Chris Claremont, Dave Cockrum, John Byrne, and just really good, decent tales. And this is a nice collection if you want to see the original, the new X-Men. Along with, of course, the one that's the in-between one, which I think is just a great book. Ah, now that one was volume 5, and this is volume 6. So I continued on with these ones. I think I've probably got the the omnibus edition for some of these. So it's let's just go with this one. And of course, you've got they're in the circus. You've got Beast goes to the circus, and of course we find out that it's a certain character that's taken control of all of the X-Men. And also, I love this one with Magneto. Magneto captures them, and a bit daft story, but at the same time, just so brilliant. And Kazar, good old Kazar and Savage Land. And you've got Sunfire and many, and of course, Arcade. Not one of my favourite characters, but still good. And Archon as well. But, oh, that one's a good one. Proteus. Love those stories. That was a great one. Reality itself turns on the X-Men. Really, truly brilliant story. Well, the artwork, of course, sold it. John Byrne's artwork with Terry Austin's art, inking, was just great. And there he is. Oh, that was... Oh. And, of course, we also had the Hellfire Club story kicking in with Phoenix. I love that. That was just a real brilliant story. Another X-Men. Now, I haven't got the X-Men Omnibus Volume 2, and that's why I've got this. Volume 3. I don't know if I've got... Yes, I've got Volume 2. Got Volume 2 as well. That's the reason, because I haven't got the Omnibus. I don't know if it's available. I don't... I've looked... I've got Volume 1 Omnibus. I've got other volumes of the X-Men, but not Volume 2. And you've got End of the X-Men. Of course, Professor X has died. Of course, it's not the end of the X-Men, but that was the... They also had these stories, these sort of short stories. I wish they'd included them all at the back, so you would actually have a continuous story in the comic, but still, they did include this one, of course, the Iceman. And they were interesting. I love this one as well. This is just a brilliant one. Mesmero and Magneto and Lorna Dane. What a great Steranko cover that was. Just a classic. I think they've done sort of many variants on that one, because it's just so, that green, I don't know why. If you stripped away the green and not actually, I wonder if it would be such a epic cover, but it just, I remember when it came out, wow, that just stood out. Just what a cover. Classic. But it did have some real duff stories. I mean, some of them, like this one, I was just looking, this guy, I have no idea even who the character even is of this one. You've got a character there. But there were lots of those sort of stories, and also not very good either. Of course, you did have the classic Sentinel story and Neil Adams' work. I love that period. Of course, I've got it in the gallery edition. So the gallery edition, that's good. Of course, Sentinels as well. Gallery one there. Oh, this one, which one? This one's the Sauron story. That's good as well. And also Sunfire and many others. I was going to say Sunflower. Could have been the Sunflower. That would have been a great character, wouldn't it? Sunflower. Though it just sort of finished in an odd way when you look at the old sort of X-Men. Issue 66 was just an odd finish. Now, that sort of thing. It's very odd. But also you had the great Marvel Tales 30 and Kazar 2 and 3. Though I would have thought, personally, they would have stuck that in volume 4. It would have made more sense, but I suppose they'd filled that book up already, so you couldn't really do those other ones. But you had these sort of stories. I think it was Siegel. I think did those ones. They were the Dazzler character that obviously never caught on. Hang on, there was a Dazzler later, but anyway, that wasn't the same Dazzler. But also you had these ones, the X-Men Classics. Really good. And also some lovely pages there, inked pages. Just really good book. Some of the stories are terrible. Some true classics at the back. It really sort of took off again, I think, near the end. And it was just pity it was cancelled, of course, at that point. Just when it's starting to build up. Though they did end on a bit of a duff note, I think. 65, 66 was not some of the strongest stories. And there's another set of stories, 24 to 45. Not all bad, but there were some sort of pretty bad stories in this one as well. Power and Pendant. I love that one. That was a good one. That's the El Tigra. Puppet Master. The Whale and the Banshee. That was a good little story. A Mimic. I love the Mimic character. This guy. Not my favourite, but the Juggernaut story. Beware the Juggernaut, my son. I did enjoy that one. That was quite good. And they had that character, which I can't remember his name. So that shows how good he was. Cobalt Man. Was it Cobalt Man? Oh, wait. Oh no, Meccano. Meccano. Good old Meccano. I was just looking, I was thinking, like Cobalt Man, but Meccano. Sort of slightly second-rate Iron Man character. I don't think there was never any more stories of Meccano. Maybe he's a character that they could do this was an interesting one. You had the Blob, of course, Vanisher and Mastermind teamed up. It was a very Factor 3 story. And this one, weirdly, there's a collection coming out fairly soon. There's an X-Men Penguin one. And I was thinking, Penguin Classics, they've chosen the really odd stories. They've got this one, the grotesque. Just not a story that I particularly thought was any good. It's just very strange. You've got Red Raven as well, with odd story there. You've got Spider-Man, of course, and the X-Men. Unusual one to put on the back cover. But still, this is 1966 to 68. And again, includes a good old Not Brand Ek. And finally, taken a long time to get. This is all the way through all my epics. And I think this is all my epics. Obviously, I'm not going to add another one now. Volume 1. And you've got Tyrannus on there on the front. And these are good. Really love these. This is, of course, Hulk 1 to 6. That was a great story. But it also includes, like other ones, where they've included like Fantastic Four 12, 25, 26, Avengers 1 to 3, issue 5, etc. Amazing Spider-Man 14. So it's a sort of collection of all the run of stories. A complete, more than an epic in some ways. You've got the Hulk Triumphant. I love the fact there he's in a shirt and I suppose he didn't have a tie. Hasn't got a tie, but he's got slightly ripped trousers there. Always the trouble with Hulk, he sort of varies in size. Sometimes he's really massive and you think, well, you probably wouldn't be able to fit in any size of suit. But still, of course, you've got Origin and you've got good old Ringmaster. And the Fantastic Four battling away with the Hulk there. Oh no, that's some other character. That's the... Oh, what was his name? Well, oh, it was... yeah. Won't say that. The Incredible Hulk, of course, and the Fantastic Four. I love that story. That was a real unusual one. Of course, you've got Ditko one with the Metal Master and many other classic tales, as well as Avengers turning up, battling against the Hulk, along with Fantastic Four as well, where the Thing suddenly finds someone that's slightly stronger than him. He suddenly realises he's not, and I think he still continues to try that he can battle away with the Hulk, but he never does. And of course, you've got old Spidey against the Hulk as well. That was a good one. Green Goblin, love that story. And of course, the classic Avengers Journey into Mystery, which was very similar, of course, to Avengers number 3. And you've got a good old Marvel poster there as well. Hulk lovers of the world, hearken to the message from the Marvel bullpen. And you've got here, he will be appearing in Tales to Suspense. Really good. Thoroughly enjoyed. So that's it. I love the epic collections. Always picking those up. I don't read every single story once I've read it. Obviously, I've read that, so I would read the whole book. So now I will never probably read it all the way through in one go. But what I will do, I just pick up one of the stories and just read through it. And you think, oh, that's a good story. And then I'll flick through and pick up and read another story, because I've read them all over the time. There's still some that I must admit, because I've read them over the years in black and white in the UK. We, of course, had all those comics. Like the Captain America ones that I mentioned, like 140, 120, 130, that sort of period. Those stories are not so familiar. I read them at the time, didn't think much of them at the time, and even now when I've reread them a few times, still not a mega fan of those stories. And I suspect that many of them I will never probably reread. But the epics are just great for just dipping into and reading stories, and also being collections that you can just run through and read everything. Now, recently, I have noticed the prices in the UK have gone up considerably. I really was quite shocked when I looked at one recently. I thought it's gone up close to a very high amount. And I thought, no, that's unbelievable. But still, you can still pick up these normally 20 to 30 in the UK. Now, obviously, I don't know about the US, but certainly for us, about 20 to 30-ish price. I don't see many, weirdly, I don't know why, of epic collections at comic marts. They just don't seem to turn up. You see them obviously in comic shops, you see them go for Bin Planet, Gosh, etc. But I go to the comic mart, I very rarely see epics or completes. You see essentials, quite often there's piles of essentials, like £5 or £6 or £10, but not so many of these epics. You don't see particularly many omnibus, some, but not... maybe in different comic marts it might be different. Maybe up in wherever, Sheffield one or somewhere else, maybe epics turn up all over the place at good prices. But I have noticed on certain online sites, the prices of some of these epics have gone up quite a lot. And hopefully, when they finally come out, the price will dip down a bit, that it becomes a bit more affordable. Because I think when you start looking at 50 quid, you start thinking, that's quite expensive for a collection of, albeit great stories. So I still love all these epics. I'm thoroughly enjoying reading. And actually, it was nice going through them. The only thing is now, of course, I've gone through them all. I've got to put them back on the shelf again. There's so many to put. I have to shuffle them. Now I will actually try and put them in order. Well, I hope you found this of interest. Which epics have you bought? Have you got lots of epics? Do you buy epics? Do you buy no epics? Do you buy completes? Do you buy the essentials? Did you buy the essentials? I've got a number of essentials, but not as many as I used to. Also, omnibuses, of course. There's another option there. And also the new Marvel Masterwork ones, as well as, of course, the original Marvel Masterworks, because they've got these small ones. I'm always shocked by those small ones. You think, that's very odd. I mean, it's a great little format, but they're all about like 11 or 12 pounds. And you think, but they're very tiny in comparison. They're more like pocket books, which are great. I remember back in the 70s, you used to get these sort of small little pocket book volumes of Marvel ones. They were great. But still, they were very tiny compared with, obviously, the comics and obviously any other sort of editions that come out, like omnibuses, etc. The size, obviously, there. But still. So what's your thoughts about epics? Do you think they're a great format? Do you think they're a waste of time format? I don't know. I mean, I like them, but maybe other people might think, you know what, I don't like those. I prefer to read them on digital. What's your opinion on those? Well, hope you found this of interest. Bye.